What's up, everybody? It's another edition of Randomly Selected, powered by the Silver Room. Happy summer! Finally! It's summertime. We kick off our summer with a visit with Jansen Bridge. Amazing photography. Amazing. We talked to him about his origin story, of course. We also talked to him about his portrait series and the process of working with a client. It's nice that it's summertime, and it's nice to have you back with us on Randomly Selected, powered by the Silver Room.
I think there's a few levels to that. One is born in the South.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, let's start. My grandfather raised me, and he was from Chicago, but he would never bring me up here.
Bo Diddley's your granddad.
Yes. And then, so he would never bring me up here. He used to play the Hope Fest for the Chicago Homeless Coalition every year, and I always wanted to come. But I played basketball, and so he always and we had a tournament always around then. And so some years I'd work and I'd want to come up here and he wouldn't bring me. And I'm looking back, I'm just like, he just didn't want a kid with him up
Hanging
here. Right?
Out. Yeah.
And then so the other aspect is to be in a space that, I know after he passed, I know he was raised in. So there's a lot of value and connection that way. Then also Chicago does have its challenges. But coming from where I came from in Florida, it's a beautiful existence because I don't walk into rooms and count the number of black people in a room here. And I didn't know I did that in Florida until I moved to Chicago. And so just being able to exist freely as I am is in just such a beautiful feeling. And I know that we still have a lot of growth, but for years I spent my entire life existing like that and not really understanding it. And so in that way, I feel like I owe the city something to just be able to exist as I am.
What triggered the migration to Chicago?
Just looking for more opportunities, right? Florida is I think the University of Florida is the number one employer in the state. Hospitality is the number one industry. And so just not a lot of great opportunities. And the ones that are, you don't have a lot of lateral movement or even upward mobility. It's you get a good position, you stay in it. Yeah. And so, trying to find a home.
I just want to circle back to the things you see in Chicago. If there was a way that you could say, I want to fix this, or I want to make this better for people who live here, what would be the this?
The this? I think merging the city together. And so there's a lot of people that do incredible work across the city. And I feel like we're not working together. And so we're kind of we can be in these silos where this person's doing this work over here in Little Village. This person's doing this similar work in Inglewood. Mm-hmm. And so by combining our efforts, maybe the head people at those two different organizations or areas, they start working together and then build up their voice, but kind of organizing everyone to work together. And I think by that way, especially in creatives and nonprofit work, in turn, we can make it easier for the next generation of creatives. And I feel like Chicago, we have the power to break an artist, a musician, photographer, painter overnight. You get the right people supporting them. And so if we could organize and do some shit like that, that person then come back and invest back into the city. And so it's making the world a better place for the next generation.
I kind of caught that vibe. I was watching some poets yesterday. Mm-hmm. I tend to write from time to time. And these are younger dudes. And it made me think there's so much of everything here. And to your point, we don't really do as good of a job as we probably should do to make sure that the younger generation of folks, at least not trying to make them do it like we've done it, but just so they can see there's a way to do it, the proper way to make this work so that you don't have to work so hard. Yeah. One of the advantages, I think, that I sound like an old ass man. One of the generations of, one of the things that I think the advantage really is strong is social media, the internet, and being able to reach the entire world I found out about your granddad doing the research on you from an article from a newspaper in Gainesville. About a hat or something that you gave your granddad.
Okay.
And I was like, wow. Just the idea that I could access that kind of information, I think that's what makes what you're talking about a real thing. That can happen. That reality of bringing the neighborhoods together. 77 communities in Chicago. I think you only hear about 7 of them, and those are the black and brown ones. It's where the shit is always going down. But there are people working really hard in those communities to make it right. But together would really make it work, I think.
Yeah, and even in terms of, there's so many benefits of us organizing and working together, and even when you're talking about the neighborhoods, right, and only hearing a lot, information about 7 of them, right, is media, news agencies, they have very good ways at getting bad information, and there's no good way for them to get good news. And they just don't have the resources to do that. But if we can organize and kind of work together, there's so much potential in that. And even putting together some like organization or team to where we can submit our own stories for reporters, and they can go out, then they can go out and do the work. But you can't, we can't let other people just tell our stories. So we have to kind of step up as creative people in our community and continue to do that work.
About those portraits you do.
Yeah.
I have started following you on Instagram, sir, and those photographs, those portraits are stunning.
Thank you.
It's weird how not seeing them on a wall, not seeing them in a gallery, but seeing them in that format even makes it more of a thing for me. They're dense. They're not disrespectful at all. It really and you said on your website, but it really does make you want to go, who is this person?
Yeah, thank you.
And I know a couple of the people you shot, and I know them, but even seeing portraits of them, it's like, wow, that I never looked at them that way before.
Thank you.
What is your process in the okay, I'm not asking for a portrait. If you want to get to it, that's on you. I'm not asking. But when you sit with your client, you're like, okay, this is what I want to do. How does that day begin for you?
Yeah, so it usually starts a few weeks ahead of time. I find someone I'm just like, this person's doing incredible work. And so a lot of the idea of who I choose to shoot is, can we tell the story of Chicago right now without this person? Are they living, are they adding more value to the city than they're taking, right? You'll see me say that a lot, and you'll see it on my social media website. So then, select them. Depends on if I know them, or if this is my first introduction with them. Then we'll have a Zoom call and kind of talk about the intentions and meaning, and that's really my way of letting them know that what the portrait's going to be. Is like, I don't give up any creative control. They don't get to see the pictures. I choose the picture based off of what I feel the shoot is like. So then I send them a calendar invite, and just has like, it's very detailed and has all the information for the shoot, earth tones, no name brand, limit jewelry, no makeup for women or men, but really just stripping people down to just like simplicity, right? And then setting the tone, what we will or what I will edit. Not going to take out any permanent marks. I'm not trying to make some people look like something they're not. And then the day of the shoot, text them, good morning, making sure we're still set. And I work 7 to 4 every day. And then have a bunch of anxiety.
I can imagine.
Go to the studio. And then set up, and then, when the subject arrives, we, for this first hour and a half, we don't touch a camera, right? It's just talking. And then so what we do is we dive into who the person is. Like, we talk about through their entire life, from, who they're raised by, influential family members, coaches, teachers, traumatic events, and challenges that they've had to overcome to get to that point. And so we kind of like I kind of want them to understand who they are, and where they're going. Because like so far, like so many people are like doing great work, but they're not really, they don't understand or look at themselves like they're doing the work. They're just like, this is what I have to do, or this is what I feel called to do. And so letting them know is like letting them look at themselves from an outside perspective. And then when we get through all that, we'll talk about the future. And that's usually where you see the pictures, is that those moments where I'll have them, and it's no posing, it's all casual conversation. I'll have them, sit and just stare at me and give them like a prompt. Like, what is it going to feel like when you write your first screenplay? What's it going to feel like when you are Grammy nominated? And then just like walking through all of those things that we talked about earlier in the shoot.
We talked to Jansen about working in the now, in real time, and what that's like for him. And we also asked him about the current dream capture for him. It's more with Jansen B on Randomly Selected.
I mean, I have a career that I work in procurement in the data center industry. So that's my job.
You end up, huh? You do a what now?
I do work in purchasing.
Okay.
So that's what I do, 7 a.m. to 4 p.m.
Wow.
And then my shoots would be, 6 p.m., 7 p.m. And that's kind of how most of my days go. I was fortunate enough to keep my job through the pandemic. Shoots, I didn't really get into the studio. I get my first studio until about a year and a half, 2 years into the pandemic. So a friend of mine was, a really close friend of mine was moving to Los Angeles.
Okay.
And he had a studio downstairs. He was using it as a music studio. And he said, we were doing a video on him to kind of like break down a song that he had put out. And he's like, you guys should take this studio over. And we're like, how much is it? He goes, it's $200 a month. I'm just like, I'm looking at my friend Ryan. I'm just like, $100. Like, yeah, we want this space. And so the lady is really hard to get a hold of. And so we finally get a hold of her, and it takes like a month and a half to just get some paperwork. And then by that time, we're like heavily invested in it. We've been going back. We've already been like have the idea in our heads. And then so the rent went up to $600, and so I'm just like, which is still very good.
It's not bad,
but it's $300 as opposed to $100. You know what I'm saying?
Yes. Yeah.
So, but yeah, we went and got that studio, and that's where I kind of like started to learn how to take pictures and to develop this style. And so I'm not sure if the pandemic would have happened if I would have ever taken that leap. To doing that. I knew that I wanted to take this style of portraits. There's a photographer that I've been following for a few years, and he takes this fine art style and really wanted to shoot pictures like him, but his are more, they're very similar, where you get, his name is Jason Buff, but you get these beautiful like feelings from them, but they're also kind of editorial style. But I wanted to take that style and adapt it to some things I already knew and just shoot faces, right? Just no expressions. Like, we want you to use your socialization, your experiences to project and try to figure out that person.
I like the idea of your style. I like that entire, just thinking about those portraits again, just how everybody has their story, right? And somehow you manage to capture this without them doing a lot of movement, jumping around or anything like that. But there's one picture, I don't know, and you don't put names, so I don't know the name of this person, but he's laughing or yelling, I think.
Okay.
And even in that moment, it's like, yeah, just that, you nailed it.
Thank you.
Yeah,
that's what we want. I mean, and it's beautiful being that moment, right? Because, and during the shoot or the pre-shoot email I send out is we want the subjects who I capture to understand that moment of taking that picture, because the idea is to make a picture that you can feel, but we also want it to last beyond us. And so it's great to discuss and be in that moment of taking this picture with the intention of it outliving us, and just to be in that moment and understanding that at that time is really cool. It's just a really kind of cool thing.
When you look at the future of your work, what are some of the things that you want to do?
I want to continue taking these portraits, and I want to partner with the museum and leave them the files so that one day, 10 years, 20 years after I'm dead, the images can run.
Anybody you want to capture that you haven't? Like, who's the dream?
Oh, the dream is
Capture.
it's Tobe Nwigwe.
Word?
Yeah.
I know a guy that knows him.
Yeah, he's my dream. He's my dream capture.
I know a guy that knows him. I know a couple people that know that man. That would be interesting.
Yeah,
What makes you want to? He is an interesting person. Yeah. Having met him a couple of times, he's a very interesting brother. What is it that you want to, or what makes you want to capture that image of Tobe?
That's a good question. And I don't know if I've thought about it to that in depth, right? But it's making me, think of it now. And so just like I feel that the work he does, the music he puts out is a representation of everything I want my pictures to be. And so it's kind of like, and so just want to capture that, strip that down, and just like capture that, the Tobe that we don't see. And because there's a way of, we see what he puts out, the work he puts out, and how do I explain it? You see the work that he puts out, but there's also like this like human element that we don't see. I mean, you see in some like videos and stuff, but in seeing that and the separation, I think like it gives us all that power and understanding that we too are capable of these incredible things.
That's interesting because I'm hearing his music in my head while you're saying that, and he's dude is fire, man. He is like, yo, and his story, his origin story is very interesting too. It's interesting. I hope that happens for you.
I do too.
Because I think if you got a chance to meet him and talk to him, you will find out that dude is. Shout out to Tobe. Hopefully he's listening. Shout out to my man.
I hope.
Shout out to Fat too.
Yeah,
Fat is all right by me.
It's funny, so I'll show you. Like I have, I know there's no video, but I have
Theater of the mind.
Just to show you, every Sunday, I have a calendar reminder to email their team.
Nice.
So,
Look at that. It is.
So when I'm at the barber, I email their team, and I'm just like, I was like, give them like, let them know that I can go out to meet you here on this date. So it's like I've been like pursuing it, but just it hasn't happened.
I hope that does happen. I know he's in town this summer. He'll be here.
Yeah, I saw that.
Chicago's his people support him here, boy. I don't know how it works everywhere else in the United States, but in Chicago, he gives somebody a 10-minute notice that Tobe is coming. People show up for that.
Oh, absolutely.
Brother. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I want to real quick. What did you play basketball in college? I
didn't.
Oh,
and I played in high school. But did not play in college. Yeah.
I was just wondering because I'm like, you're a pretty tall fella. You might have your jumper might be a little wet. Get it going. Are there any subjects, but not people necessarily, but other things that you think about? Maybe I would like to challenge myself to photograph that.
So I want to move, and I feel like it's a parallel move, and going from these like headshots or like neck up portraits, and going into a space where I'm doing, and I have the vision in my head. I haven't been able to replicate it to what I like, but I want to capture people in this style of still life. So, and the same idea, right? Is so we look at, like an artist would paint a bowl of fruit or a table or a chair. Is capturing people just like that, and just like basic stand-up poses, not even like just looking, no like real posing, hands down to the side, and with the idea of viewing that image and taking in that person like we would look at an artist who's drawn a bowl of fruit, and then it makes you look at that fruit differently, makes you look at that table differently, and so that's what I want to move into, and hoping to start doing that. I just got a new light set up in the studio. I haven't had a chance to get in there.
I'll let you geek out. What kind of equipment is it? Because somebody's gonna be like, what kind of camera you use?
I shoot a Sony A7 III, and then I have just switched to Westcott lighting.
I do know about those two things.
Okay.
Ooh, those are some very nice things you have. That Sony is dope.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Okay. I'm looking at the back camera. I'm tired of doing this.
Oh, the lens. So I actually use. I was shooting with an 85 G Master, but I feel like it wasn't as sharp as I wanted, so I switched over to a macro lens, which is more for like macro food photography things. But I use it on portraits because I like the way it picks up detail in the eyes.
We're talking with Jansen Bridge, Jansen B, and we're asking him about photography and things like that. And among the things we talked to him about, we asked him if there are subjects outside of people and portraits that he wants to challenge himself with next. Here's more with Jansen Bridge on Randomly Selected, powered by the Silver Room.
It's hard. I go to these photography conferences. I've been going to them. I think I've been to them. I've been to 2. But I get in these rooms and you hear people speak and they're talking about, all these photographers and how they, take pictures. And I was just talking to someone last night and how they take pictures and artists or save pictures that inspire them. And I don't have one like that. Like, I don't even know a lot of like big photographers. I think that, Jason Buff was his style, was an influence on me. But I feel like a lot of my influences, it's emotional, like from my experiences, which is hard to explain because, that probably is the reason that I can't get this vision of these. I can't replicate the still life images I want to create because I don't know how to do it yet. And I haven't seen them. I haven't seen this style yet.
You're creating the style. Well, if not creating it, you're definitely enhancing it.
Yeah, the style I feel like is just an experience of everything I've learned, right? And it's, taking something and just kind of making it your own. But like I can give someone a video of what I do. Mm-hmm. They can't do it because there's so many micro decisions in it, like thoughtless. And just like I couldn't do something someone else does, it would still be theirs.
Have you ever thought about filmmaking or anything? Because I can only imagine that you would have some very interesting things to say if you were making a film.
For like me making a film?
Yeah, just
no. I have. I want to start doing some video work, but it's hard. It's just doing one day job. I'm also working on. Been working on an album that's coming out. Not me. Sorry, not me.
I'm like, what? That's a flex bomb. I didn't know that album was coming.
No, I'm working with Nico Siegel.
Okay.
Nice. On his album that's coming out soon.
Yeah.
And so that's been taking up a lot of the extra time, and I'm sitting on so many edits, and people are just.
What's your role on with the album?
I don't really know. So I shot some artwork. It's kind of like the creative lead for like the marketing aspect and that stuff, I guess you would say. But it's just helping assemble a team, and it's really a beautiful piece of. And there's not. I've been asked to do album covers and stuff before, but there's not many people I would shoot an album cover for because the work has to matter.
You're very intentional about your creative freedom.
Yes.
Why so intentional?
Because I do shit I don't want to do every day in my job.
Say
with a smile.
That's it.
So it's just like so it's like in my space, I don't want to, and so I was doing things, when I started shooting, I was doing like, trying to go that route and like shooting models and that. And it was just like the back and forth between what I created, it took the fun out of it for me. And so the goal was to get to a point where I can shoot the images I want, and the person can't come. They're not going to come back and say anything because they know that that's the standard, right? It's like that's the image you get is what you get. Right. And so creating a style that is almost like a painting, right? Is like if someone painted something, you're not going to go ask them to go change it, right?
Yeah,
and
right,
so looking at portraits that way and creating work that that means something, right? And because there's a lot of photographers who are really good, but their work doesn't mean anything. It doesn't have a value because they just shoot everything. And so the idea of being intentional and shooting things that I care about and that I feel like represent me is important.
10 years from now, are you still in Chicago? You think you're going to...
No, Chicago's
You're here?
Yeah.
You're more Chicago than the time you spent here says, brother. You're way...
Yeah.
You're in. You're good. Usually it's like a year, 2 years, 4 max, and then people are like, man, I got to go back. Florida is not happening.
No, not a chance. Not a chance. No.
That's a great... we should send that to the new mayor. That's a good enough for the city.
Yeah. I'd like to shoot Brandon Johnson. I'd like to get him in the studio.
Now, you know, no guy,
nice.
I know a few folks that know him too. That can actually make that happen. Do you have any political leanings? Does any of this stuff that just happened with the mayoral race here in Chicago, is any of that like captured your attention?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And, you know, I believe, so I tried to get a marketing job in Chicago. With the company I'm still with, right? But didn't work out. We just didn't have the same vision, right? And so I took that and I was like, you know, my job's fine. I can continue to grow in this role, but I still want to do this work, like marketing and creating. And so I took that and started applying those same kind of like ideas of marketing, creativity, and applied it to work in Chicago. And so I feel just how creativity, I'm not rich by any means, but just how creativity can impact and influence how you look at a business. I believe it can also impact push forward social progress. Mm-hmm. So I don't know if you guys are aware, but I'm planning right now. I rented a private restaurant inside a private residence. I do want to ask about that. Yes. So, and that's part of that is like bringing people together.
Talk about that a little bit.
Yes. So I'm really excited about it. And what I've done is, you know, through capturing hundreds of people, is I realize that so many of us are, like we were talking about earlier, doing such similar work in different areas of the city. But they don't know each other, or they just know them from Instagram or a news article, but they've never met. Mm-hmm. And so this idea is to bring people in my gallery together. So like I said, I've rented a private restaurant inside a private residence. It's more of like a really nice industrial grade like restaurant area, but it's inside a former inside a residence. Hired a private chef, which is a Chicago diaspora, and curated a menu, 5-course meal, and I have invited 18 people from my gallery, and we're going to get together and talk and try to share resources and tools and networks, because these are people that wouldn't, you know, are doing work but don't like cross, right? And so I'm really excited about it. We have 2 sponsors, Apolog Liqueurs and Sunday's Finest. I'm still looking for sponsors, so if anyone's out there, we need some sponsors. We need gifts and stuff for everyone. But it's a beautiful space. So, like, the proudest thing so far is, like, we have Dion of Dion Chicago's Dream.
That dude, yeah.
Incredible work. Yes. Tanya Lozano and Alan Chima. Mm-hmm. We also have Jamil Cannon, Emma Stitchgod. We have Ray of Crime and Kindness. Nice. We just have like so many incredible, talented people that, like I was saying earlier, is like we have the power to push shit forward, but we have to get together and organize and use our collective voices and share resources and networks.
In the remaining time, I gotta go all the way back to the front of this conversation. When I am of a certain age, as you can tell, because my creaky bones and such. When I read that about your granddad and saw that was your granddad, in my head, I went, oh, wait a minute. Because if you're so you know, he's revered very much so in Chicago, Illinois, and all around the world, of course. But something special about him here. People here have a feeling when you say. People of a certain age are like, oh, word, yes, Bo Diddley. And like, I can only imagine the part about you saying he wouldn't bring you to Chicago. It was probably more than a couple of reasons why. Probably more than a couple of reasons why. But I think the fact that you had to have had a unique perspective of things in general from him, and I'm not trying to dig all into your life and all that stuff, but I am curious though, what was that like? And was it like, Parade of Stars at the crib, or him playing all the time, or what kind of?
Yeah, it was.
Come up was that?
He was great. He was. He was very strong morally, and just. Had a very strong compass for him. And I feel like that helped me through, especially through like a lot of dark times, and times through any past. And, but yeah, he was, very gregarious, very funny, very inviting, times. I grew up in a very small town. So there's a lot of valuable things and moments we had. It's also kind of hard, being in such a small town and everyone in like, areas of Florida that can definitely be racist.
Oh, yes.
Where
oh, absolutely, yes.
But being there and just like wondering if people are inviting you to places because of your grandfather.
Yeah.
Or for other reasons. So like, and you'd go to spaces where my grandfather preceded me. So it's like everyone knew me as that. And so getting to Chicago was beautiful, not having that shadow on you, right? But
I totally dig that.
Yeah,
I totally dig that.
And that wasn't something that I even got comfortable sharing until I came to Chicago with people.
Wow.
And so I'm sure there's still people that are friends with me. I know that that don't know that, right? And so it's been hard. In that term is like me understanding my background. My parents are both addicts. My grandfather raised me, and not having a famous grandfather, but you couldn't really talk about him because, you're, for one, your parents are both addicts. So that's like awkward having those conversations about family. And then two, your grandfather's famous. And so it just, you couldn't really talk and like relate to people about family. So for the longest time, I didn't talk about any of that.
I'm telling you, when I say I stumbled upon the hat story, I legit was going through stuff, reading about you. There's so many people with your name. That was confusing. Yeah. I'm like, okay. And then when I saw it, I'm like, this might not be the same. And then I'm like, I think this is kind of cool. I just think it's fascinating. Your life is very interesting, brother. And the work that you're doing is really dope work.
Thank you.
The day I met you over there, for the 10 seconds I got a chance to talk to you, and I was looking at your stuff at the Silver Room, I was like, wow, this is very large. It's big.
Thank you.
And I love the depth and the breadth and the width of all of that stuff, man. And I am a fan.
Thank you.
I'm in now.
Thank you.
I may never get a portrait, but I'm in. Thanks for being on Randomly Selected, brother. Really appreciate it, Jansen. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. It's an honor.
Absolutely.
Really is.
Thanks, Jansen, for being on the show. We really appreciate it. Learn a whole lot about you, brother, and good luck with all of your work in the future. You do good work, my friend. Congratulations on everything. On the next Randomly Selected, the poet laureate of the city of Chicago, my man, my brother, Avery R. Young. That is going to be great. See you all soon. Be safe. Peace.